and welcome to the last episode of the Earth to the Moon podcast. I'm your commander, Andy, and I'm joined by my lunar module pilot, Elton.
Word, how are you?
I'm all right. A little melancholy that we're here at the end of our journey.
It's nice. I quite like it. I think it's the right time.
No, it's the right time, but without wanting to kind of tip the hat too soon, it's a really nice little episode, this is. And it does kind of drive home the fact that we haven't been back in nearly 50-sodding years.
Well, it was 30 years when this was made.
Oh, yeah, that's the other depressing thing as well.
Then another 20 years have passed and then we're still not there. Oh,
yeah,
geez.
Yeah, we're... Whoops. Oh, well.
What went wrong, mate? What went wrong?
Oh, I could get into a long political rant at this point, but I'll spare the listeners. So very briefly then, did you enjoy this episode?
Oh, I did. Yes, I did, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it because it's clearly split into two parts, isn't it? And
it's almost split into three parts, to be honest.
Oh. Okay, you're going to have to remind me on that.
Well, you've got the Georges Méliès stuff.
Yeah.
You've got the documentary stuff.
Yeah.
And you've got the actual mission.
Fair play. Okay. Right, okay. Well, out of the... I like all the separate parts equally. But when I'm in one world, I get this a lot of the times when films and programs are split up like this. When I'm in a certain area, I like that area and don't look forward to changing to the next area.
Yes.
And it happens in this episode.
It does, yes.
When we're doing all the old timey-wimey stuff about the film going to the moon or Voyage to the Moon, I'm enjoying it, but I want to know more about that and don't like the jumps to other parts. But that given, I do enjoy this episode. I think we get a lot of good mission stuff along the way and some stuff that's really important. And I feel I like the way they end it because you feel kind of sad that it's all over.
Yeah. Just to those who we might have buried the lead a little bit here. We're talking about episode 12, which is called
Le Voyage Dans La Luna.
Thank you for butchering the French so I don't have to. Which basically translates as The Voyage to the Moon.
Yep.
Which is taken from the Georges Méliès film based on the Jules Verne novel.
Right.
Which details the story of Apollo 17, the last time man went to the moon. As of recording, by the time you're listening to this, somewhere in the future, A, we might have flying cars, B, we might have world peace, and C, we might be back on the moon. Of all of those, the moon is the one that's the most likely to happen.
Oh my God, yes.
And unless we decide to skip the moon and go straight to Mars.
Well, we have a flying car.
It's called a plane.
No. We had one sent up this year.
Technically, that's a
it's orbiting.
I was going to say it's not really flying under the terms of aerodynamics, more drifting through space.
Yeah, it's true.
But yes, so we're here to talk a little bit about Apollo 17 and the last episode of From the Earth to the Moon, which starts off a little bit differently because we don't have our traditional Tom Hanks introduction, do we?
What the hell, man?
I know.
I get it. I get why they did it, because otherwise it'd just be Hank special, wouldn't it? But
well, it was already the kind of Hank special. But
yeah. But hang on, that was a bit of left field, wasn't it? I like it. I'm not saying I don't like it. Not saying I don't like it at all. But because we're so used to Hanks walking out from the Apollo statue and reeling off that thing, and then always making sure that From the Earth to the Moon is mentioned in his monologue. He does that every single time. I reckon that was a day's work for him.
Probably, if that, probably didn't like an hour. Knocked them all out.
Yeah, 3 suits. Just change them up a little bit. Do episodes.
Did he change his suits?
I didn't check enough.
I don't think he does.
I didn't check enough, honestly. So it might even be just the same clothing. Right, okay. Go, Hanks. Do your thing.
Walk out of it. Stop. Okay, go do it again.
Yeah.
Do that 11 times for us.
Yeah.
Well, we can't afford the 12th. Oh, well, never mind.
look, he's such a pro. He's not going to need anything else, is he? You can, okay, right, here's my lines. I say this. Okay, thank you very much. He'd probably be done within 2 hours.
Yeah. So yeah, it's. I mean, that's the first thing, and then we have, this narration, and it's clearly made out like a documentary. The way it's structured, with a woman talking about, in 1972 going to. Oh no, it starts off with the Georges Méliès stuff, doesn't it?
It is, yes. It's I propose a voyage to the moon, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, because we have Tom Hanks in really. I kind of want to say it's really bad, but the DVD I'm watching is very low res. God, no, honestly. So I can't quite decide if it's just bad old people's makeup, or if it's just because it's on a dodgy, not dodgy, a smaller screen.
Right.
So, but yeah, they've kind of done him up, and he's talking about, working with Georges Méliès and, making this film. Have you ever seen the film, The Voyage to the Moon?
I've never seen it.
Or A Trip to the Moon, to be give it its English title.
I've never seen it. I think I know of it. I think I've seen bits of it, but then again, I'm not too sure if I've seen.
Everyone's seen the famous shot of the moon with the missile in the eye.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen
it's
bits.
One of those. Yeah, it's one of those films. It's a bit like Metropolis, whereas it's very groundbreaking. A lot of the stuff which we kind of take for granted now, in terms of special effects, were kind of pioneered in that film. And it's kind of a nice, it's kind of, again, as the narration says, the first step on a voyage from the Earth to the moon is imagining it is possible.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I like that sentiment, before you can work out the techniques of doing something or have the desire to do something, you have to imagine you can do it. And I think that's very true. And I think that's very telling in, things like what Elon Musk is doing with, the whole going to Mars and all that. Before you work on the technical aspects, you kind of have to sell people on the dream of.
Yeah, and it makes everything very romantic as well, doesn't it? It brings everyone's passions up for the job in hand and gives everyone a target to look forward to and to strive for as well. And if you get people's passions up, then they're more likely to go along with that as well. Look at all the dictators in history. You get people's passions up and they're going to be going for it, aren't they?
It's very true. It is. And again, it's that whole capturing the imagination, and it lets you believe you can do anything. I know we're kind of jumping a little bit ahead to the documentary, but when you have Seaborn, the reporter, and he says, we didn't go to the moon to do science. We didn't go to the moon to beat the Russians. We didn't go to the moon to show that we could do it. We went there to take those pictures to inspire us. Which, it's a very... This is a very, like I said, it's very romantic in this episode. It's a certain melancholy to it all, especially when you have the guys in the, the aged makeup a little bit, and they're looking back after, as you said, 30 years at the time from it.
Yeah, that reminded me of Back to the Future, that makeup.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was, wasn't it? That, Back to the Future was, 10 years ago when this was made?
Closer to 15.
Yeah.
80. Yeah. It is a little bit. Weirdly enough, I at the time, I didn't question that he was wearing old man makeup. I was just like, yep, no, that's fine.
Okay. I kept looking at his face, the reporter that is, and going, something's different there. Oh, hang on. Yeah, they're making the mold, aren't they? Because they did that with the Tom Hanks character as well.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at his hands. And I'm like, well, they didn't do anything with his hands. He's still got the same age hands. Hands age as well, people. Hands age as well. And it works. It's a TV thing. You can forgive it for what it's done. And it's there for a purpose to try and make them look like they're looking back. But, okay, fine. Did we really need it? I don't know. But then again, I suppose it tied every thread of the story together, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you had at least one person from each part of the things being told in the makeup. You had Tom Hanks, you had the Seaborn chap, and you had one of the
we had the geologist.
Yeah, that's
we had one of the mission controls, Gene Kranz. No, it wasn't Gene Kranz. It was Christopher Kraft.
Right.
Emmett Seaborn, Christopher Kraft, and the geologist whose name I can't remember. The one from the Apollo 15 episode.
That's right. Yeah.
Lee Silver. There you go.
Right.
And yeah, that was all great. I mean, it was very nice. I loved in this episode, just as general, a lot of musical themes that we've heard throughout the series were back, that we probably haven't heard in a few episodes. But, you know, they were slightly tweaked. Like, you know, there was a version of the Earth to the Moon theme when they were doing the Méliès film stuff. And I just want to say, I really did enjoy that bit where you got Tom Hanks effectively being an AD, like running around and, you know, just parroting whatever the director was saying. I thought that was very funny. Yeah. You know, that's too much powder. No, it's perfect. That's the perfect amount of powder. Not a bit more, not a bit less. And that was all very cool. And yeah, it was just fun watching that. The attention to detail was great because, again, if you catch little clips of the film proper, they've gone to such detail for this small little scene in this thing, which was great. And I loved all of that. So yeah, just seeing that, and again, the passion and the excitement that Méliès has for his film was really nice. I really enjoyed that. So I enjoyed all of those seat bits. Pissed me off no end a bit about Edison just fucking pirating the film.
Oh man,
Edison is just the biggest fucking cunt in history at this point. He didn't give a fuck. He just screwed over everyone. Anyone who came in his way, he was just like, gee, that's a nice power supply there you got, Tesla. It'd be a shame if someone was to steal it.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the guy was regretting that he didn't have DRM on his movies.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Well, it's the thing, though, at the time, it was very hard to kind of, you know, piracy wasn't an understood thing. It was because of stuff like this why we got copyright laws. I mean, not specifically for this, but, you know, things like that to protect the creators. But it's a little heartbreaking after all that passion and excitement and, you know, joy he was having making the film to realize, you know, he pretty much went bankrupt largely because this prolific twat who just, if he saw something, he just stole it. And it's still venerated today by people. God only knows what reason, just because he was, I mean, the things Edison was good at is he was a good businessman and he was a good communicator. You know, he'd see the good idea. But I mean, again, the guy has like, you know, 1,093 US patents in his name. You know, I bet he's probably personally responsible for the invention of maybe like 6 of them.
Allegedly.
Let's
stick that there right now. Allegedly.
He's pretty fucking dead at this point.
Yeah, you can't slander the dead, can you?
Exactly.
Fair play.
If he's got a problem with it, come back and say something.
Yeah, the actions described there really suck, though. That's just proper filth now. And, you know, as you said, this is why we have copyright laws nowadays. And, oh man, what a dick.
It reminds me of that joke that if someone was to steal a Tesla car, is he now driving an Edison?
Ooh. Yeah, it gets prickly now, doesn't it?
A little bit. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on from that.
Can I just move back one step to the music that you said?
Yes.
About where they were dropping it in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it was the olden days, I had a bit of a problem with it.
Did you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Because it was that familiar From the Earth to the Moon theme tune.
Yeah.
Playing through it in a different way. And once I noticed it and kept recognizing it, I was like, oh. Because, you know the film Up?
The Pixar one?
Yeah. Where they play the same tune again and again and again and again and again. It's the same tune all the way through that film. And it drives me potty. And I hate it. And it's one of the reasons why I don't like that movie. And if I notice something like that, my attention is drawn to it. And with music, you're supposed to enjoy it, but it's supposed to enhance your feeling of what's happening on the screen. And if I get drawn out of it and I'm sat there going, I've heard that music, I'm recognizing it too much and it's drawing me out, then you haven't done it correctly, as far as I'm concerned.
Interesting. I mean, for me, it was the opposite in so much as I liked hearing that familiar theme in those moments because it reinforced that idea that to go on a journey from the Earth to the Moon, to get to the Apollo program, before all of that, you had to imagine it was possible to have, the dream to do it.
Yeah.
And while this is not the first time man had dreamed of going to the moon, it was kind of like the first time it was conceptualized in such a way. Because, I mean, the interesting thing is a lot of the stuff in the Jules Verne novel is actually quite scientifically accurate. I mean, a lot of it's not, the whole launching it from a cannon and stuff like that. But that being said, when you get to things like mass drivers, that's not too far. But, he had times it would take pretty much right. Right. He had, things like, he knew it would take, so many days to get there. He knew about when you came back, splashing down in the ocean for recovery and stuff like that.
Yep.
The pressurized capsule, there was a lot that he got right for something that was written in the middle of the 19th century. So I quite liked the use of the music there, just tying that into the overall story. And again, it kind of tied furthermore into this documentary that we're watching. I wasn't sure if the interview with the Tom Hanks character was part of the documentary or if it was just a separate thing running alongside, but I didn't really care. I was cool with it.
Right. Yeah. It is a little confusing at points, isn't it?
But there were some really nice bits as well. There was a bit like where you cut from, Méliès saying, and go, like action. And then it cut to Apollo 17 taking off.
Yeah.
And it was a real nice jump cut there. And the music was going at that point. And it was just, I go, like, it literally goes like, and the gun fires. And then off goes Apollo 17. And it's just like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I really like little bits like that.
Yeah. I think the whole idea of the episode works really, really well in that respect, because you have that kind of ebb and flow, don't you? But yeah, sometimes I get drawn out of it. I think it's just my own problems that I have to deal with when I watch these sort of things. No one else really seems to have these sort of issues. I think it's just an Elton problem with these sort of things.
I mean, you compare this. I mean, this is very much in the vein of stuff like the Apollo 8, the Apollo 13, and the Apollo 16 episode, where we don't have a huge focus on the actual mission. Like, we're not following the whole thing as it happened, sort of thing. But of all of those episodes, all those style of episodes, I think this is the best one.
Yeah, definitely. I think. Yeah, but Apollo 8. Hang on, what one was that? That was 1968.
That was the MTV. Yeah, that was the MTV video one.
Yeah, that was a bit disconjointed, really, wasn't it? That felt a bit weird.
Yeah. But we're not going to go treading over that. If people want to hear what we think about that, just go back for 8 episodes. You'll find it.
Definitely. So, what did you think of the film that they were putting together in this respect? Because there were some lightly humorous scenes where they're making up the guy's face to be the moon.
Oh, yeah.
And then you also have like the director really coming out and really screaming at people and shouting. But then again, you can see the actual love when Hanks is cranking the handle and showing him the film.
Yeah.
And you can see him dancing on the stools and, riding the wave and the crescendo as he's actually watching his own movie for the first time.
I liked how he was kind of directing while he was acting in that first scene. And, he's going, and in come the astronomers and, oh, yes, and in come the pages and you hold your telescopes high. And he comes in.
And you're very angry at me.
Yes, shout, tell me you're angry, throw stuff. And I just loved all that, the passion he had for it, which was great. And yeah, I mean, I could quite happily watch an entire episode just of that. Mm-hmm. I'd watched the entire film about the making of that. I don't know if there is one or not. I haven't looked. But that one of itself was really interesting, and that was very cool. So I enjoyed all of that. And like I said, I just, as soon as I heard about Edison effectively ripping it off, I got legitimately angry.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, for fuck's sakes. Again? Damn it, Edison! Your treachery know no bounds.
Oh, yeah, what a tosspot again.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, I don't really have a huge amount else to say about those bits other than a lot of praise for it. It's nice. I think Tom Hanks was a little distracting because, especially with his voice and everything, how he was being presented throughout the rest of it, you can't get away from him being Tom Hanks. You know?
Why do you think that decision was made to stick him in there? Do you reckon that's his decision to want to be part of it?
Well, he wrote this episode, so I would take that as yes, that was his decision.
Right.
Personally speaking, I would almost rather he'd play Jim Lovell. I mean, if you're going to be in it, just be Jim Lovell. You've done it in Apollo 13. You could do it here on the Apollo 8 one for those bits. And again, I mean, it was only really the Apollo 8 episode he'd have been in because he doesn't really feature in the 13 episode. So that might, I think I'd have had less problems with him playing Jim Lovell than him playing Jean-Luc, whatever the guy's name was, for that bit. Right. Just because it was more so with the narration than anything else. But when he's narrating, because it's weird. The old Tom Hanks is speaking in French, and young Tom Hanks is narrating it in English, and it's just this weird disconnect going on, man. It's just like it just took you out just a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I just took that as the Hunt for Red October thing, where once you're in their world, then you just understand their language, don't you?
No, I didn't have a problem with him acting. It's the narration bit where he's narrating what he was saying.
Hang on.
So when he's the old man, right, he's speaking in French.
Yes.
Yeah, but young Tom Hanks, or Tom Hanks normally, is then translating it and speaking over it.
Right.
That's what he's actually saying.
Oh.
And that's what's that's what's a weird disconnect going on there. You know?
So he's okay, you've just hurt me a little bit. Something is fired in the back of my brain, and it's kind of short-circuited because, oh, I hadn't thought of that now, because now you got French Tom Hanks, and then American Tom Hanks over the top of him. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It's just a strange director's choice. That's all I can imagine there. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I really enjoyed all of those moments.
Right. No, that's What about when they're actually on the moon itself? I love the way that they show you how they cut and splice these movies. And then
the special effects and everything,
yeah, especially when they bring out the telescopes and they turn into stools.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with it. That's fine. But I like the way that they jump cut that, and then later on when you see them on the moon and they hit an inhabitant over the head and he just poofs and disappears. Okay, number one, straight away we're killing people on the moon. So, what the hell? We've invaded their territory. But then again, this happened when we went around the world, didn't it? When we first discovered other countries and, sent boats out. And, what was the first thing we did? We took all our diseases over and wiped lots of the population out, or gave them more tools. And so one tribe would get an advantage over another tribe. They started wiping each other out. So I suppose it's kind of down to humanity to kind of do that sort of thing. But
fundamentally, we're dicks.
We are massive dicks. We really are. But I like the way, I think we've touched on before, but the way that he's directing and okay, right, gentlemen, get your blankets out, and now we sleep on the moon.
Yeah.
And I know it's such a long time ago, before, even actually going to the moon was ever possible or anywhere close to doing anything like that at all. But it's just interesting on the way that, okay, you get the period of going to the moon slightly correct, and that so wrong. But then again, we didn't know. So who's to say that they're wrong in thinking like that?
Well, I don't know. It's just, it does occur to me that even if they were to go on an adventure to like a desert or a jungle or something like that, they probably wouldn't be dressed in their Sunday finery either way.
And they'd take more than blankets as well, wouldn't they?
You would hope so, yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, I did enjoy it. I did really enjoy it. Yeah, should have put some DRM on there. Once again, we're going back to that, but man, what a dick move. It's just, someone's put all this passion and work into making this artwork, and then all of a sudden you found out that someone's put a brown paper bag underneath someone's hand and just made copy after copy of their film. You're like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, it's gutting, but well, there you go, eh? Shall we talk a little bit about the other aspects of the episodes?
Yeah, let's go for it.
The other bits we've got is there's a documentary that's being made about Apollo 17 that we're watching, and it's got interviews with Harrison Schmitt and who we'd already seen in the Apollo 15 episode.
Yep.
And with Gene Cernan, who was the commander and self-titled Last Man on the Moon. And there was a very good documentary film about him. He sadly passed away only last year, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
January last year. But a very good documentary film. If anyone gets a chance to see it, it was on, as of time of recording, it was on BBC a couple of weeks ago, so it might still be on iPlayer.
Right.
But it was on Netflix for quite a while as well.
Is it still on Netflix now?
I don't know. I will take a discreet look while we talk.
Okay, fine. Jack Schmitt, that's the chap that was, when we were going out on the episode, and we were they wanted to learn more about the geography of the moon as they landed, so they knew exactly what they were looking at. He was there training people and working with the astronauts at the time, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, he was. He trained first as a geologist, and then he joined the astronaut corps. So that's how he came to be there. And yes, The Last Man on the Moon is currently on Netflix, so you should all go and watch that. It's very good.
Yes, definitely.
Harrison Schmitt. We don't really get to spend any time with Ronald Evans, who was the command module pilot. I don't think we see the command module at all in this episode.
No, we don't. No, we see the 3 astronauts launching.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hang on. No, is there... No, we see the second stage launching towards the moon as well once they're in orbit.
Yeah. The
so,
S4B.
You don't actually see it, do you?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a shame. But I think what we got from the documentary is that I like the way that you got Jack Schmitt turning around and saying, I was concentrating on the stuff underneath me.
Yeah.
And, sorry, I've forgotten his name again.
Gene Cernan.
That's it, Gene Cernan. He's turning around and saying, he was looking up at the Earth and looking back at the Earth, and oh man. And you got the polar aspects of both people in the same mission, but looking at 2 totally different things there.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's that sense, Schmidt's a geologist, and he's there to do the work, and he's very conscious that this is the last mission. He knows that this is the last chance to do this science there. So he wants to use every minute, and Gene's just Gene Cernan's just kind of like caught up in the awe of it. And it's not because he doesn't think the science is important and all that, but again, he's not a geologist by trade. He's a former X-15 pilot.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he does. And again, I got to tell you, if I ended up on the moon, I'm pretty sure I'd spend most of my time staring back at the Earth.
Okay, I wouldn't know what to look at. Honestly, wouldn't.
All of the things. All of it.
Well, okay, if you're near craters, you look at craters, you look at mountains, you look at how black things are. Because sometimes it's really appreciate how dark things can be.
Oh, especially in that film studio, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just turn out the lights.
Yeah.
But then you got the Earth as well, constantly above you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it must be so hard not just to stand there and just stare at that for hours.
I'm pretty sure if given the choice, that's what most of the astronauts would have liked to have done. But, they had a job to do. I mean, the total, they spent, like their first EVA was 7 hours, I believe it is, which was longer than the entirety of the Apollo 11 mission in terms of time on the moon.
Yeah.
So, and they did 3. I mean, their total EVA duration was 22 hours, 3 minutes and 57 seconds. They spent nearly a day outside on the moon.
Yeah, that must be getting close to the longest.
In terms of time on the moon? Possibly. Yeah. I don't actually know who spent the most time actually walking on the moon. I could probably look it up, but I can't be bothered. No. But people at Google, you can look this up yourself. But again, it's something like Schmidt said later on in the documentary. He goes, look, we should have kept on going. We were just getting good at it. The hardware was all sorted now. We kind of knew what we were doing. We knew how to get the most out of everything. And we just stopped. And then you've got the flight director there saying, at the end of the day, there's budget pressures and all that. And, it's always when you think you're almost finished that, something bad's going to happen. And, while I can understand his point of view in saying that, though, it does seem just a little bit overly cautious. But then again, we see that in something like The Martian when, what's his name, Teddy's going on about, we're just one PR disaster away from being shut down.
Yeah.
We've got limited budget. We've got to use the thingy. But again, it's just a huge shame that was it. And then they just shut it down like that.
I would say that a lot of these missions are walking a very fine tightrope. A lot of the time as well. And it is between you're balancing the political aspect and the money aspect as well, and the science aspect. You've got all these aspects to worry about, and then when one falls away, then you lose balance, and that's it. You're off the tightrope, and that's what happened to Apollo, isn't it? It became not stagnant, but it was a case of, okay, we've done it, we've been there. What more are we going to get now? For me, when Schmidt turns around and says, we should have carried on, we were just getting good at it. And you feel, imagine where we would be now if we had just carried on. I'm not saying we would be further out, but imagine what we would be doing.
Well, there's that line that Emmett Seaborn says, which was, for Apollo 11, the world stood still. And, the pictures they were getting were so bad, most people just couldn't actually tell what they were looking at.
Yeah.
But the entire world stood still for that. And then by the time you get, and it's only 3 short years later, 69 to 72, that's it. 3 years later, and no one gives a damn. And they've got these great high definition pictures coming back from the moon, full color, looking amazing effectively. No one gives a damn. Yeah,
because it's just the moon.
Right, and that's the thing. It became so blasé so quickly. And again, it's people. It reminds me of, people say when you're on a plane and you're complaining about the terrible airline food you're having, just stop and think for a second that you're hurtling through the sky in something weighing 400 tons at close to 700 miles an hour, doing a journey which 100 years ago would have taken you months. You can't see the woods for the trees almost.
Oh,
and that's what happened here. Effectively, it was, we've gotten to the moon. It became blasé, but no one has stopped and thought that what an undertaking it was just to do it.
The problem is with humans, the disgusting race that we are sometimes, we always want more. We're always greedy. We're such a greedy race. And, look at other animals. They don't just take stuff just because they want it. They either need it or they don't need it. And that's the way that they work.
Are you about to quote Agent Smith from The Matrix?
No, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going down there, no. But I feel... Oh, you lost my train of thought now. But, okay, we get bored so easily with these sort of things, though, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, we're fickle. as a society. I know you mentioned earlier you're not a fan of Up, but we are Doug the dog. We are literally, they go, oh my God, we're going to go to the moon. It's going to be amazing. Squirrel!
Yeah.
That's just what it is. I mean, the reason we didn't, what did they spend the money on from Apollo after Apollo? The Vietnam War. Or, some other bloody stupid war politics and stuff like that. And that's it. It was a political reasons why we haven't been back to the moon since. Because again, without the finger quote space race, they don't see the reason to spend the money on it. And I know there'll be always people who are saying, oh, well, we could spend the money, and feed the homeless or, cure disease and stuff like this. Well, it's doing aspirational stuff like Apollo. It's pushing forward on the science, which tangentially leads to those things. The guy who invented antibiotics wasn't trying to invent antibiotics. He was doing something else.
Yeah.
That's how science works. You're trying to solve one problem or do one thing, and all of a sudden, oh, look, we could do this.
Yeah, you've done 5 other things.
Yeah.
Just because you tried to get one thing accomplished, and you've accidentally stumbled upon other things. That's what happens. Experiments.
Yeah, I mean, I think very rarely great scientific advancements come out because you went out to solve that problem. People went out to solve something else or to do something else, and to get to that point, tangentially, they'll solve something else along the way, and then boom, then that gives us that. So yeah, I mean, I've been saying throughout this entire thing, I think it's a massive waste that they didn't continue the Apollo missions. I think the space shuttle as a whole was a massive waste of fucking time.
Yeah.
Which again, if people want to know, they can listen to other casts, or maybe I'll do a derelict episode on the space shuttle sometime. But it's just one of those things where Apollo was us venturing out. Apollo was science led. Apollo was exploration. Apollo was something special. And after 17, it's kind of tragic. It's tragic that in Kennedy Space Center, there's a Saturn V that was destined for Apollo 18. Never got used. It's just sitting there. It was rusting outside for many years. There's another one in Alabama, which, was for 19 or whatever. They built it, but it was decided it was cheaper not to fly it. And it's just like such a waste.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can see why the news corporations as a whole, as in a general thing, they can cover up news so easily because we become so distracted. Like you say, with the squirrel thing, we will be looking at some bad news and then some good news will come out and cover over something, and then someone will slide in some bad news just so they say they have reported it, but then it's all out in the open and you can't really moan about it because we've already said it, but you just missed it. And that's how it works. And because we've seen that news report and now we're bored of it. And so we move on to the next one. And we always need constant reminder and pushing forwards. And that's what happened with Apollo, where, oh, this is new. We're testing out how to go to the moon. Now we're going around the moon. Now we're on the moon. And where's the next step from that? The next step from that was we're on the moon again. And the next step was we're on the moon again. And that's not good enough for the human race to be interested in it. Now, granted, there'll be a million people out there interested in it. But nowadays, I don't think you would get that. I think you would... I think the same thing would happen again. You know, the Apollo mission was about human race as a whole striving towards something different, doing something, actually progressing. And they did that, but then they hit a brick wall of, it got old really quick. And I think that it would happen again. If we went back to the moon, it'll be, bang, look, let's say we've got 20 missions all set up, ready to go. And the first one, we get back there, we put feet on the ground, we do these experiments, we come back, everyone cheers, hurrah, there's ticker tape parade, blah, 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 blah. Next time it'll be, oh, look, there's someone twittering from the moon on all these Instagram face posters, whatever happens, with social media. And then it would get boring. because we're just going back to the moon and not doing anything else. You need to do massive steps to keep people interested in it. And that is where we kind of fail. And that's why we haven't been back in 50 years' time.
Yeah, I think with things like Mars today getting there, I think it'd be a slightly different mindset now. I think there's a bit more of an appreciation of the science side of things. It's less about just beating the Reds to do it, you know. And I think that might have been the problem as well. It was the stated goal. If you pitch something, if you sell something on the goal is to beat so and so, the goal is to win this race. Well, once you've won the race, like you said, you know, there's what's to keep you doing it. Yeah. Whereas if it had been truer to the Kennedy speech, you know, we choose to go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. You know, if he'd expanded upon that, and the goal was to, you know, establish a base. You know, if he'd have said, land a man on the moon and bring him safely to the Earth before the end of a decade, and establish a permanent presence by the end of the next, then that might have been a better way to go.
Yeah. Excuse me while I just jump in my time machine and tell him to say that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, tell him to go and sort of. While you're at it, tell him to duck in next time he's in Dallas. But yeah, it just feels like it was basically waded ankle deep into the Atlantic without crossing to the New World. You know, you didn't really do it. You know, we haven't made yet the plunge and the commitment to establishing, you know, a base in space. I mean, okay, we've got the space station there, but that's in low Earth orbit. I mean, and even that, you know, it sounds like they're thinking of winding that up soon.
Yeah.
So, it is going to come down to companies like SpaceX or Blue Origin or whoever setting up bases. I know I've pimped it before, but the book Artemis, which is a fantastic book and highly recommend people read it. In that, it's Kenya sets up a moon base. Nairobi. Kenya does it because it's read the book. It makes a lot of sense in there. But they set it up there, and it's effectively run as a private enterprise. You know, it's a self-sufficient thing in that front, and their entire economy kind of comes based on having that there. So yeah, it's gonna. It can't be a side project. It can't be it can't be a thing a government's doing on the side sort of thing. It's kind of got to be if you're going to make it a permanent base there, you've got to kind of go balls deep. Yeah, you've got to get maximum effort and commit to it. And, you know, again, hopefully at some point we'll see that. But I don't know if there'll be any Apollo astronauts still alive by the time that happens.
Oh, man.
Sad little thought. I mean, that's another nice touch in this episode was at the very end. You know, because we're just dancing around on this, having the names of all the astronauts with their pictures appearing.
Yeah.
And all in alphabetical order, cool. Just to kind of, you know, eliminate any favoritism there, you know, just kind of go through more.
That's the safest way to do things like that, though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Always,
I mean, you could have done it. You could have done it by omission, but you know, it was just doing it that way. It's nice. Their pictures appeared. The music was nice and everything. And yeah, everyone. I mean, it's a shame they didn't feature like astronauts from Mercury and Gemini who didn't take part in Apollo, because I think they were still integral to the Apollo mission, testing hardware and procedures and things. But then you get into a situation of, well, if you're doing those, why aren't we including the flight commission, you know, the mission control people and people who did this? I mean, literally millions of people worked on this to get those people to the moon and back. So you have to draw a line somewhere, and I suppose that was as good a line as any.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, well, the whole structure of the program is about the Apollo missions, isn't it? I know you have a little bit before that as well, testing the equipment, etc. And go, you know, first American in space, first spacewalk, etc. But it's all part and parcel of the mission of Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
And their journey from 1 to 17.
Yeah, pretty much. It was just, again, we see some bits on the actual mission as well. We see the excitement when they find some orange dust, and when they find out it's actually a reflection. And when they find some more, and when it actually is orange, it's like, yay!
Is there photographic proof of them finding the orange stuff?
I'm pretty sure they brought samples of it back.
Right. I'm not asking because I don't believe. It's because I think I was listening to another podcast about space and science, etc., and they were talking about collecting soil samples on Mars, and where they dug down a little bit and found permafrost underneath, and then I think they left it a couple of days, and then it had evaporated. And I was just diving into that. And then I think I watched this at the same sort of time. I was getting all very confused because it was all red dust on Mars and it was orange dust on this. And then I've rewatched this episode again, and it's all kind of gelled into one, unfortunately. But yeah, that was good. I love all the stuff on the moon. Granted, there are some hokey bits, should we say?
There's one particular shot of the Challenger module which looked a lot like something out of Thunderbirds.
Okay, what one is that?
There was just a shot. It was a shot when he'd gone over to the boulder, and he looks back. And I think June Cernan at that point is talking about we were just a couple of schmoes, lunchbox guys working. I've lived on the moon for 3 days. I had a house on the moon, and it's just looking back, and it's very very Thunderbirdsy.
Is it because of the aspect of the distance, trying to get the focal points in there? I think
it might have been that, yeah. But aside from that, and there was a couple of bits with because there's the bit when he's talking about when he's standing next to the one of his boulders.
Yep. And
he's describing it as being as big as a house. Now, I don't know if you've seen an actual picture of him standing next to that boulder.
Sure I have. I think there's
I'll tell you
wiki,
what. This might end up being your picture for the thing, but I'll send it to you on the Skype now. There you go.
Okay. Let's have a look at this. I'm sure I'm on this page already. Yeah, I'm already on this page, yeah.
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 You just don't get that sense of scale from the episode, because obviously they can't build a boulder the size of a house in their studio.
No, that is remarkably larger than what they've shown on the actual episode itself. That is huge, and that's not a hill on the moon, is it? That is something that either landed or was floating around when the moon was created and then crashed back down. I don't know. That is something special, though, isn't it?
It's a big old rock. But yeah, there's a couple of moments like that. I did quite like. They continue to use archival footage quite a bit, and I always enjoy when they stick that stuff in there, because again, they have it, they may as well use it. We had the bit about them trying to get the perfect image of the launch, because they'd failed on Apollo 15 and Apollo 16. It was their last chance to film it.
I love that thread on this story.
Yeah, it was a cool little thing, wasn't it? And it's great that they got the footage, and the whole 6-second delay, and he started it going just at the right time, and it looks absolutely perfect.
Yeah, okay, right. I had MTV flashbacks from that, because I think MTV used that a lot, didn't they?
They did.
And
I was a little disappointed at first, because at first they did a model thing of it, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Use the footage. But then they cut to Mission Control watching it, and they used the footage. I'm like, oh, good, yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Well, I like the way that they explained it, and I think this comes back to the actual interviews as well, because they said that there's no footage of the guys stepping off the LEM onto the moon, because the only camera they had was on the rover that they had.
Yeah.
And that is what took the final shots of the LEM ascending as well. And you think, okay, fine. Well, we've already, as NASA has said before, we've already had the pictures of people stepping off onto the moon. We've already had that. There are no more important shots than Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin going down there for the first time. Granted, they're grainy, but then nothing is going to eclipse that. And so, yeah, well, why do we need to see that again? It's just repeating it again and again. And then, so then they just used the rover, and that's NASA moving on. We know what we've done. That's in the archives. And so we're moving on, progressing, but we want to make sure that we get the departure. And that was one of the most important ones that they went there for as well. Mm-hmm. And it worked. It works so well.
No, that was all very, very cool seeing that. I like the fix he had to do to the rover as well with the when they broke the fender.
Yep.
On it, because that's in the Smithsonian now, I think. Because he brought it back. He brought the fender back.
Yeah, he said that. Did he bring 2 back or just 1?
No, he brought the clips and the makeshift, because he broke one fender, so he brought that back.
Yeah.
With him. And again, signing his daughter's names in the regolith in front of it, which again will stay there for just about as long as the moon is there, right up until the point some twat goes and kicks it over because they're a twat.
Oh yeah, there will be some idiot that does that, won't there?
Oh yeah. Pretty much.
They'll be like, oh, look, some aliens have written something on here. We can't really make it out. Oh, it doesn't really matter. There's nothing important with that, is there?
Nah.
Oh, God, come on. I like that they did miles on the moon as well.
Oh, yeah.
In the rover. And
yeah,
that was... I love the use of the rover. I know it's pure laziness by the human race again, but it's necessary, isn't it?
No, it's not laziness, though. It is necessary because, again, they have a limited supply of life support they can carry in their packs and everything. If you're walking that sort of distance, then you're using up more of that stuff. You can't get as far away and traverse the entire valley. So, no, it makes a lot of sense having that there. I was just reading something on the wiki here, which they don't mention in the episode, but apparently there were 5 mice on board.
Ah, yes. I was going to get to that because... this comes from, I've read the wiki as well, and they said that they had a light flash phenomenon where some of the crews throughout the lunar missions, they were saying that they could see streaks or specks of light when they had their eyes closed.
Cosmic rays.
Yeah, and so they wanted to test this, and they took mice up there to see if they were being hit by cosmic rays. And I think one of the mice died.
Yes, but I think they said they couldn't find out the cause of its death.
Yeah. I don't think it's due to space dust or cosmic rays or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that gives you superpowers, isn't it?
I think that's how you get them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they were special mice as well, so they didn't have to be fed or watered for 4 or 5 days. So they could just take them up there. Now, did it say where the mice were? I take it was still in the command module.
Well, they survived the flight and got back, so one would have to assume that was the case.
Yeah, they're not going to take them down on the moon.
I've just got a vision now of what's his name? Ron Evans, just kind of like feeding the mice while he's going around for 3 days with no one talking to them. Oh no, the mice have escaped. They've overpowered me.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, you travel too close to the black hole and then you come back 2 hours later, but really it's 27 years on the command module.
Don't start fucking Interstellar.
Yeah. and the cat has turned into a humanoid cat.
Yeah.
That's how it works, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's science. Yay. Yeah, I think that's... I mean, I can't think of anything... This is all in all a really good episode. I enjoy it. It's not the best, but I think it's a nice little sign-off to the series. And again, to the Apollo program as a whole. Yeah. And yeah, it's just a little sad that, it came to the end the way it did. Not with a bang, but with a bit of a whimper.
Yeah.
Not that you really want a bang when space missions are involved, but
Yeah, I was going to say, they don't really want that, do they? We had that in 13 and there was some kind of problem as far as I'm aware. But I think it's also the sadness. You can tell the sadness of these guys because they know that's the end. Sometimes when you know, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Sometimes you can go through these things and life will give you a curveball, and all of a sudden what you were doing has to stop there and then, and you don't know it's going to end. But these guys, they all knew it was being wound up, and they had a finishing episode, didn't they?
It reminds me, there's a quote from Gene Cernan, I think it's in the Last Man on the Moon documentary, and he goes, "I always knew I wouldn't be the first man to walk on the moon, but I never for a moment believed I'd be the last."
Yeah. Such a shame.
It is.
Okay, well, can I ask you then, out of all of these episodes that we've done, not including Apollo 13, which we did at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Highlights and lowlights.
Highlights for me? I think my favourite episode might be Spider. I really like Spider.
Yep.
The story of Apollo 9. I also really like the Can We Do This episode. And I still really like the Apollo 12 episode and the 15 episode. It's easy for me to tell you what one I don't like. And that's the Apollo 8 episode, the Apollo 13 episode, and the Apollo 16 episode.
Yeah.
In reverse order. In fact, I would say for me, my least favourite is still the Apollo 8 episode. Because I don't think that works narratively, coherently.
Uh-huh.
And as we then saw in the Apollo 16 episode, they had stuff which would have made the episode better. They just didn't use it there. Then you have the 13 episode. I don't know if it's the episode I dislike so much as the content of the episode.
Yep.
You know, the whole press thing. And the 16 episode just seems like they had this stuff left over from other episodes, so they just kind of shoved it in wherever.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Okay. Low light is Apollo 13. We interrupt this program.
Yeah.
That was it. It just felt awkward. I get why, you know, we've already had the film that's kicked off this whole series, and so it's really hard to do something different, but it just felt I was left wanting something else, and that's not a good thing. So that is probably one of my lowest points in this thing. Spider is my favourite episode, without doubt.
It's a great little episode, isn't it?
Yeah, I could just watch that, stand alone, dive into that, watch that, and come out, and I'll be very happy.
I've got the musical sting for Spider, which is the music whenever we're doing it. I'll send it to you if you like. But it's a nice little sting, that is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That is my favourite episode. Disappointments, I suppose. Apollo 10, watching them skirt across the moon and not actually be able to land on there whatsoever, and it was kind of that was a blink and you'll miss it kind of episode.
It was a bit of a cameo, that, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the same as the original Wives Clubs. Now, once again, I feel that there is a story to be told from the family perspective, but that could have been dived in on and incorporated much better if it was put throughout the whole show.
Yeah.
It is the problem with these these episodes is that they are about the same thing, but told by a different director from a different perspective in a different way. And it's not an HBO show that you would see nowadays, where they would have a Bible that you follow from, and you start here, you finish there, you have to have all this stuff in the middle, and you work out where it goes, but it has to flow narratively. Yeah. And that is the problem I find with this whole show itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to have seen the original Wives Clubs spread quite thickly across all of the episodes. But we're not. It is a kind of dramatization, but it's kind of not. It wants to do the dramatization when it feels like it wants to, and then tell different stories at other certain parts along the way, which feels kind of weird. But yeah, this episode, that we just reviewed, part 12, it's definitely not one of the worst ones at all.
No, I quite like, on the whole, the different styles we got. The different ways of, again, with the same cast for the most part. And you had people like MSC Bourne and, what was the guy's name? Deke Slayton, who will be present throughout all of the episodes, kind of tying it all together.
Oh, Deke wasn't in this one, though, was he?
He wasn't in this one, no. He was in just about every other episode except this one.
Yeah.
So I quite like that different storytelling style because, again, each mission was different and there's a different aspect. I feel we had more hits than we had misses. And I like the fact that, they could experiment a little bit more. I think if every episode had landed or every episode had worked out nicely, it would have probably been easier. It's just, when you're trying different things and something doesn't work, it diminishes the whole.
Yeah.
And that's just a shame. But at the same time, it was nice that they tried it. Again, as much as I love other things you get on HBO, as much as I love things like Band of Brothers or anything like that, they are very samey. In so much as I can still, for the most part, any episode of From the Earth to the Moon, it's vividly in my mind, as in, like, that's from that episode.
Yeah.
Whereas with Band of Brothers and stuff like that, while there are key bits that I know happen in certain places, other bits just kind of fall into this amorphous whole. And there's not that real clear kind of embarkation line between this and this and this. And again, that's fine. It's because, they want to keep a unified style, and that's the same with most television styles. But it's nice that with this, they could experiment that little bit and just try things a bit differently and, and see what works. All that being said, though, I would have been very happy if they'd done an entire series in the style of, like, the Apollo 12 or the Apollo 15 one, which literally was just like a verbatim following what happened. More of a traditional style thing.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe, we're on the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 next year?
Yeah.
So maybe then someone will do something and, we can do this again in 30 years after that.
Do you know what? Now I've finished the whole show, when we go back to Apollo 12, it makes more sense.
Yeah?
Yeah. I know I was a bit down on it when I first watched it. But, yeah, it does make more sense. I get why that's there and it's like that as well. But
I still like that episode. I just like how much they delighted in it. I quite liked one of the things in this episode when Seaborn was talking about the cameras. And, you just got that quick shot of Al Bean tapping the camera in. And, just a little kind of flashback there. It was just like, oh, good old Al.
Yeah. Yeah. Just wondering if there's anything else I wanted to bring up on there. No, okay. The end, when you were saying about the lists of the astronauts, I also liked the way that they were going backwards in time with the landing sites as well, and having little flashbacks of the guys on the moon, etc. And then you had the Kennedy speech over the top of that as well. And then all the little hairs on your neck start standing up, and you're like, oh man, if only we carried on. Yeah.
It's frustrating as all fuck, mate.
Yeah, it is. But do you know what? I was aware of this when you first mentioned about doing this, but I hadn't seen it all. And I'm really glad I've seen the whole lot now.
Oh, yeah. It's never going to be a Band of Brothers sort of thing.
No.
Because it's a different kind of story. But I do think it's something people should watch. And I think it's the Apollo story as a whole is one worth telling. And it's not just about Apollo 11 or Apollo 13. All of it's worth talking about.
Apart from Apollo 10.
Apparently, apart from Apollo 10. I was literally about to say including Apollo 10, but yeah. Screw those losers. I mean, I think it's remarkable that, one of the best episodes, one of the most telling things about the entire thing, though, is the story about the design of the lunar module, and just the designers working on that.
It was just such a good.
Well, it's the ingredients in that episode just come together so well. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely it's definitely one of my favorite ones, and I do think it's well worth. Again, I think they're all well worth a watch. And yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to, next year we've got One Small Step, which is a film about Apollo 11 with the Goose, Ryan Gosling, as Neil Armstrong. So I'm looking forward to that. We might record a little special one off for that.
I can't see why not. We drop it on this feed.
Yeah, exactly. We'll throw it on here. And again, with everything going on next year for the 50th anniversary, there might be other little things that we can do. I mean, maybe we'll do a thing about Last Man on the Moon at some point, which is an excellent documentary. I know I've said it many times, but it is well worth your time, people. I can guarantee you we won't be doing Apollo 18 on here, though.
Shucks.
I refuse. Likewise, with whichever Transformers film involves them going to the moon, some bollocks. Can't believe Buzz Aldrin was in that. But,
oh, man. Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
He was. Poor Buzz.
Well, he got a house out of it, I'd imagine.
I imagine so, yeah. Cool. Anyway, anything else you can think of, sir, or shall we get ready for splashdown?
Yeah, let's deploy the chutes and get ready.
Hopefully open. Well, yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us on our little voyage from the Earth to the Moon. It's been a pleasure serving with you, Elton. Throughout these few weeks.
You're more than welcome. I have had a nice, smooth trip. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad that you've introduced me to a lot of episodes on here, and hope to be working with you again soon.
I'm sure we will. Possibly next weekend at the Monaco Grand Prix. Speaking of which, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Of course, there always is stuff I wanted to plug. If you pop along, you, the listener, pop along to iTunes, and you can always find From the Earth to the Moon on iTunes. It's probably how you got it anyway. But you can also find the Panda Brothers podcast, which is full and complete on there. You can find Shonky Lab on the iTunes as well, and the Grand Prix podcast, which myself and Andy cover every time there is a Formula One Grand Prix. So if you're a fan of people driving around in circles very, very fast, going meow as they go past you, then yeah, pop along there and give that a listen and a review as well. We also ask for nice reviews for this as well. Spread the love around, share it with people as much as you can. And what else is there? Oh, the Black Dog Podcast as well. Please pop along to the blackdogpodcast.com and check out their film reviews as well. So there we go.
Yep. You can also find me on The Great Derelict, which you can also find on the Rogue 2 Media site, where I talk about anything and everything to do with science fiction. I think if the stars align properly this week, I will be introduced to Blake 7 and some good episodes from that by Mr. Dave Probert. Actually, yes. Dave Probert has a brand new podcast out as well. I'm going to give a little plug here. It's called The Happy Place. It's fantastic. I highly recommend you listen to it. He basically gets people, friends, internet celebrities, readers, writers, stuff like that, and they pitch 5 things that make them happy, and they get to talk about it. And I got to tell you, it is a balm to the soul listening to someone just infuse about something they love. So definitely go and give that a listen, and give him some love as well. Tell him we sent him.
Can I absolutely recommend that as well, because it's so nice to hear someone actually gleefully talking about something they really enjoy. I think we're getting too used to people bitching and moaning. Yeah, okay, for entertainment's sake and for fun. I've been doing that for years on Shonky Lab and other shows as well.
And I will be doing it this next week on the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yes, you will be. But it's such a breath of fresh air to hear someone, look, tell me 5 things that you'd like, and let's talk about them. It's so good. So yeah, please pop along and check his show out.
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's give you the proper, you can find it all on iTunes, but I believe it's at thehappyplace.libsyn.com.
That's right. Yeah.
So go and give him a listen as well. Well worth checking that out. And again, all of these podcasts, everything, from me, from Elton, from the Black Dog lot, from Dave Probert, from Jim Moon and his Hypnogorias, give them a listen, spread them around, pass them to friends, strangers on the bus, people you just randomly bump into down the street. Just run up to them and say, go listen to the thing, and then run away into the night.
Exactly.
We'd much appreciate it. So yeah. So that is the last episode of From the Earth to the Moon. We might well be doing something later in the year, but it won't be until after the Formula One season is finished, because there's a lot of races this year, and me and Elton both have lives outside of this.
Exactly.
That's a lie, but that's what we're going to tell you for the time being anyway. But yeah, once again, I'd like to thank Elton for joining me.
You're welcome, mate.
And I'd like to thank everyone out there for listening in as well. I hope you'd enjoyed it. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Let us know. Maybe tweet to Tom Hanks, let him know that you loved the show, and we would quite like the soundtrack released. Maybe a high def remake as well. That'd be good. Anyway, all that's left for me to say one more time is thank you very much, sir, and I should go.
So we're definitely not doing 18 then, no?
No, definitely not.